In this walkthrough, we're going to go ahead and find the display templates so that we can look at creating our own custom display templates in the future here. So I have a SharePoint online site here at Office 365, and I've already created a site that has got a bunch of content, and then I've got two web parts in here that are just rolling up generic content, so it's rolling up a specific type. And on the top I've just got a content search web part, and then at the bottom I have a search results web part that is pulling the exact same data, and it's basically pulling data from a list. So let's go ahead and see what we can do to find our display templates. The easiest way to find our display templates is to open up SharePoint Designer. In SharePoint Designer, we're going to go to All Files. Within All Files, we'll go to _ Catalogs. We'll then go to Master Page. And within the Master Page folder on 2013, 2016, as well as SharePoint Online, we're going to find a Display Templates folder. Within the Display Templates folder, you're going to see a series of subfolders. The important ones for us here are going to be the content search web parts as well as the search. Search is going to be for the display templates for any kind of search results, and then content web parts are typically where we put display templates for the content search web part. Some other interesting folders here though are the filters folder. This would be for refiners. There's also generic language files. There's a server style sheet in case you wanted to create what's called server-side rendering of your display templates, which we're not going to get into here in this overview. And then also we have the system folder, which includes display templates used by the system, things like the query builder, and you'll very rarely ever touch those. So let's go ahead and go into the content web parts. And within here we're going to see our different display templates here, and as we've discussed already, we've got display templates that are control templates. That would typically ones that start with control underscore, and then we have item templates as well. With any given display template, there's always going to be an HTML file, a .html, and then there'll be an associated .js file. So if you look at the top, you can see control list.html is going to be the display template that we're going to use to make any kind of modifications. SharePoint will then automatically create and update that control _ list.js file. Now you can go ahead and put these display templates anywhere you want within the master page gallery, and that's controlled by your content type, which makes sense. So let's go ahead and check that out here. So the easiest way I find to work with our content types is if we go to Site Settings, and then within Site Settings under Web Design Gallery, we'll go to the Master Pages and Page Layouts. That's going to take us to the Master Page Gallery. Here we're going to see our Display Templates folder again, and then under Display Templates we'll see the exact same folders that we saw in SharePoint Designer. So we'll click on Content Web Parts. So what you could do if you so chose, you wouldn't typically want to do that with out-of-the-box templates, but you could here. If we go ahead and edit the properties of the .html file, you don't want to touch the JS file because SharePoint really won't let you do that here. But what we can see here is the content type. So we see different types of files that are allowed, different kind of content types that are available to us in the master page gallery. And we can see we have control display template and item display template. We can also see some other things like filter display template or group display template for grouping. So if we can put a .html file kind of anywhere we want within the master page gallery if we so chose, as long as the content type is set correctly. So we have a control display template, we have a name and title. The other thing of interest here is the target control type. So this is going to dictate where the display template is going to show up dependent upon the web part. So if you want this control item template to show up in content web parts, you would need to make sure that control web parts has been selected. But if you also wanted this control template to be available, say in search results web part, you could just check that as well. And this control display template could now be available when you're customizing a search results web part as well. There are definitely situations where you might do that, but generally a display template is designed for a specific web part in mind. The last thing I want to point out is the associated file. This is something you really don't want to uncheck, but you can if you want to. This is if you really want to live dangerously. If you uncheck this associated file and click Save, SharePoint's going to break the association between the .html file and the .js file. What that means is anytime you now make an update to the .html file, SharePoint will not automatically update the .js file, the JavaScript file. But when a display template is actually being used by the browser, by your site visitor, all that SharePoint's going to deliver to them is the .js file. So if you break this association, you can effectively throw away the .html file because it's never needed anymore. If you ever went ahead and reassociated it, SharePoint would go ahead and delete any changes you might have made to the JS file because it will use your .html file as its base. My experience is that you really don't need to ever undo this disassociation. I found that the control you get in the control and item.html files for control and item templates is more than you need to not have to worry about trying to manage the .js file, because if you make any little mistake in the .js file, you're going to ruin the display template and it may be very difficult to back out. So yeah, that's about all there is to it on a quick overview of where display templates are found within SharePoint.